You're nothing but a leech, Chloe. A gold digger waiting for me to cash out." Those were the last words Liam Harper shouted at his wife of 5 years, convinced she was dragging him down just as he was on the brink of becoming a millionaire. He thought he was the prize. He thought he was the one with the power. But he had no idea that the woman standing quietly in their kitchen, wearing a faded t-shirt and holding a spatula, wasn't just his wife. She was the silent owner of the very conglomerate he was desperate to impress. This isn't just a story about a bad marriage. It's a story about the most expensive mistake a man ever made. You might think you know who holds the cards, but in the world of the ultra-wealthy, the loudest person in the room is usually the poorest. Listen closely, because this twist changed everything. Liam Harper adjusted the cuffs of his bespoke Italian suit, catching his reflection in the tinted glass of the Sterling Voss Capitol building. He looked every inch the rising star of New York finance, sharp jawline, aggressive posture, and eyes that were constantly scanning for the next big opportunity. At 32, he was the youngest senior associate in the firm's history, and if the rumors were true, he was days away from a partnership that would push his annual earnings into the 7 figures. He checked his Rolex, a gift to himself after closing the Anderson deal, and frowned. He was going to be late for dinner, again. But it wasn't the lateness that annoyed him. It was where he was going. Home. To the cramped, 2-bedroom apartment in Queens that he still shared with Chloe. Chloe. Just thinking her name made his jaw tighten. When they had met 6 years ago, Liam was a broke graduate student drowning in loans, and Chloe was the sweet, quiet librarian who made him feel safe. She had paid for their dates, bought his groceries when he was short, and listened to his endless rehearsals of pitch decks. Back then, her simplicity was charming. Now? It was an anchor. Liam hailed a cab, ignoring the subway entrance. He had outgrown public transit, just like he was beginning to feel he had outgrown Chloe. He spent his days surrounded by women like Sofia Rostova, the sleek, Ivy League-educated daughter of a Russian energy tycoon who worked in legal. Sofia wore 5-inch heels, spoke 3 languages, and smelled like ambition and expensive perfume. She challenged him. She understood the market. Chloe smelled like vanilla and old books. She wore jeans she'd had since college. Her biggest concern was whether the local animal shelter had enough blankets for the winter. "You're a shark, Liam," Sophia had whispered to him earlier that day, her hand lingering on his arm after a meeting. "Sharks die if they stop moving. You need someone who can swim with you, not someone you have to carry." The words echoed in his head as he unlocked the door to his apartment. The smell of pot roast hit him, heavy, domestic, suffocating. "Liam, is that you?" Chloe's voice floated from the kitchen. He dropped his briefcase with a heavy thud. "Yeah, I'm home." Chloe appeared in the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was pretty in a soft, unassuming way, with messy brown hair tied back in a clip. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She could sense his mood. She always could. "I made the roast you like," she said gently. "I thought we could celebrate. I saw the stock prices for Sterling Voss went up today. That's good for your bonus, right?" Liam scoffed, loosening his tie as he walked past her into the kitchen. "It's not just about a bonus, Chloe. It's about the partnership. It's about equity. But I wouldn't expect you to understand the difference." Chloe's smile faltered. "I understand enough. I know you've been working hard." "Hard? I'm killing myself, Chloe," Liam snapped, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. He didn't offer her any. "I'm out there securing deals worth $50 million, rubbing elbows with CEOs, and then I come home to this." He gestured vaguely at their cozy, lived-in living room. "Mediocrity. Chloe went still. "I thought you liked this apartment. We picked it out together." "That was 3 years ago. I make 5 times what I made then." Liam turned on her, the whiskey sloshing in his glass. "Sophia was talking about a penthouse in Tribeca today, an investment property. She asked if we were interested, and I had to laugh. I couldn't tell her my wife considers a splurge to be buying brand-name cereal." "Sophia," Chloe said, the name tasting like ash. "You talk about her a lot lately." "Because she's on my level, Chloe. She gets it." Liam slammed the glass down on the counter. The noise cracked the air between them. "Look at you. You're 30 years old, and what do? You volunteer. You read. You exist. You have no drive, no ambition." "I have ambition," Chloe said, her voice quiet but steady. "I just don't need to shout it from the rooftops." "That's the problem." Liam laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "You're comfortable being a nobody, and you want me to stay a nobody with you. You love it when I'm tired and stressed because it keeps me here, in this little box." He took a step closer, his eyes cold. "I realized something today. You didn't marry me because you loved me. You married me because you saw a lottery ticket. You saw a guy who was going places, and you latched on. You're just riding my coattails, waiting for me to strike gold so you can sit back and spend it." Chloe's face went pale. "Is that what you think? That I'm with you for money?" "What else do you bring to the table, Chloe?" Liam sneered. "I pay the rent. I pay the bills. I pay for the vacations we barely take. You're a liability. You're a gold digger who played the long game. Well, guess what? I'm on to you." The silence that followed was deafening. Chloe didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at him with an expression he couldn't place, something like pity, mixed with a profound disappointment. "You think I'm a gold digger," she repeated slowly. "If the shoe fits," Liam muttered, turning away to grab the bottle again. "I need a wife who elevates me, Chloe, not a dependent." "Okay," Chloe whispered. Liam paused, the bottle halfway to his glass. "Okay, what?" "Okay," she said, louder this time. She untied her apron and folded it neatly on the counter. "If that's how you see me, then I won't burden you anymore." "Oh, stop the drama." Liam rolled his eyes. "Where are you going to go? Your parents are in Ohio and you have $200 in your checking account." Chloe walked to the hallway closet and pulled out a small duffel bag she used for the gym. "You're right, Liam. You are going places. You're going to places I can't follow. Not because I can't, but because I won't." She walked to the door, her movements calm, almost military in their precision. She didn't pack clothes. She didn't take a laptop. She just took her purse and her keys. "If you walk out that door," Liam shouted, panic flaring briefly before his arrogance squashed it. "Don't think you're coming back crawling when the rent is due." Chloe paused with her hand on the doorknob. She looked back at him, and for a second the light caught her eyes in a way that made her look like a stranger. Someone powerful, someone dangerous. "Don't worry, Liam," she said softly. "I won't be the one crawling." The door clicked shut. Liam stood alone in the kitchen. The pot roast was still steaming. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding and downed his whiskey. "Good riddance," he muttered to the empty room. He pulled out his phone and texted Sophia. "It's done. Free for a drink?" 2 weeks had passed since Chloe left. For Liam, they had been the best 2 weeks of his life. Without Chloe's quiet judgment at home, he felt unchained. He had moved into a temporary executive suite in Midtown, paid for by the firm as he transitioned, and spent every evening with Sophia. Sophia was everything Chloe wasn't. She was loud, demanding, and expensive. Dinner wasn't a pot roast. It was a $600 tasting menu at Le Bernardin. Weekends weren't spent watching movies on the couch. They were spent at Hampton's Mixers, networking with the city's elite. Liam felt like he had finally arrived. He was part of the power couple he had always envisioned. "You look tense, darling," Sophia purred, sliding a martini across the marble table of the lounge they were in. "Is it the Sterling merger?" Liam rubbed his temples. "It's weird. Ever since, well, the last few days, things have been getting stuck. Little things." "Like what?" "My corporate card got declined yesterday. A security flag, they said. Then, my access to the Tier 1 client database was revoked pending a routine audit. And today, the CIO of Oakhaven Tech cancelled our final meeting. No explanation." Sophia frowned, tapping a perfectly manicured nail on the glass. "That is strange. Oakhaven was a done deal. You worked on that for 6 months." "I know," Liam sighed. "It feels like bad luck. But I'll fix it. I always do." "Of course you will," Sophia smiled, but her eyes darted to his watch, checking the time. "By the way, did you speak to the divorce lawyer I recommended? If you want to secure your assets before the partnership goes through, you need to file fast. You don't want her coming back for half of your future equity." "I called him," Liam said. "He's drawing up the papers. Incompatibility. It's clean." "Good," Sophia said, "because the chairman's gala is next week. You need to be free. Rumor has it, the Ghost is going to be there." Liam sat up straighter. The Ghost was the nickname Wall Street had given to the majority shareholder of the Vanguard Group, the parent company that owned significant stakes in almost every major firm in the city, including Sterling Voss. No one knew who they were. Some said it was a Saudi prince, others said it was a collective of tech billionaires. All anyone knew was that the Ghost had the final say on the biggest deals in the market. "If I can get 5 minutes with the Ghost," Liam said, hunger in his eyes, "I can bypass the board. I can get the managing partner seat." "Exactly," Sophia grinned. "And you can't do that with a librarian wife waiting at home in Queens." Meanwhile, across the city, the atmosphere was very different. In the penthouse suite of the Four Seasons, overlooking Central Park, a woman sat in a velvet armchair. She wasn't wearing an old t-shirt anymore. She was wearing a silk robe that cost more than Liam's car. A man in a sharp grey suit stood respectfully by the door. This was Andrew Pendleton, the head of the Harper Voss family office, and arguably one of the most powerful attorneys in New York. "The papers have been drafted, madam," Andrew said, holding out a leather folder. "Chloe, no longer just Chloe Harper, but Chloe Vanderhoven, sole heiress to the Vanderhoven shipping and technology empire," took the folder. Her face was impassive, but her eyes were tired. "Did he fight it?" she asked. "No," Andrew replied. "In fact, Mr. Harper seems eager to expedite the process. He is under the impression that he needs to protect his assets from you." A small, sad smile touched Chloe's lips. "His assets? The checking account I balanced for him every month? The 401k I convinced him not to liquidate for that sports car? He believes his upcoming partnership will make him wealthy," Andrew noted dryly. "He is unaware that the partnership offer requires the approval of the majority shareholder." Chloe opened the folder. She looked at Liam's signature. It was jagged, rushed. He hadn't even hesitated. "He called me a gold digger, Andrew," Chloe said softly, tracing the ink. "He told me I brought nothing to the table." "Mr. Harper is remarkably unobservant for an analyst," Andrew said. "Shall we proceed with the asset freeze?" Chloe closed the folder. "Not yet. Let him have his week. Let him feel like a king. He wants to go to the chairman's gala. He has requested a ticket, yes, as has Miss Rostova. Grant them access," Chloe said, standing up. She walked to the window, looking out over the city lights that she effectively owned a massive piece of. "Give him the VIP table. Let him sit right at the front." "And you, madam?" Andrew asked. "Will you be attending as yourself?" Chloe turned back. The soft, library-going girl was gone. In her place was the woman who had quietly managed a multi-billion-dollar portfolio since she was 22, hiding her identity to find someone who would love her for her, not the Van der Hoeven name. "Yes," Chloe said, her voice hard as diamond. "It's time Liam met the person who's been paying his salary for the last 5 years. It's time he met the gold digger." Back at the bar, Liam's phone buzzed. He picked it up and grinned. "What is it?" Sophia asked. "You won't believe it." Liam showed her the screen. "An official invitation to the chairman's gala, VIP table, and, get this, a note from the chairman's office. Looking forward to reviewing your future with the company." Sophia squealed and kissed him. "I told you, you're unstoppable, Liam. You shed the dead weight, and look what happens. The universe rewards you." Liam clinked his glass against hers. "To the top," he said. "To the top," Sophia echoed. But as Liam drank, a small shiver went down his spine. He brushed it off as the air conditioning. He didn't notice that the security flag on his credit card earlier that day had come from a private holding company, VDH Enterprises. He didn't notice that the reason his big client cancelled was because the client had received a phone call from their biggest investor. Liam Harper was climbing a ladder, unaware that the person holding it had just decided to let go. The tailor shop on Fifth Avenue was quiet, a hushed temple of wool and silk where the air smelled of cedar and old money. Liam stood on the podium, his arms slightly raised, while an elderly man with a tape measure fussed over the inseam of his trousers. "It needs to be tighter in the waist," Sophia said. She was sitting on a leather sofa nearby, scrolling through her phone, barely looking up. "He needs a silhouette that says Predator, not Middle Management." The tailor cleared his throat. "Madam, if I take it in any further, Mr. Harper will not be able to sit down comfortably." "I don't plan on sitting," Liam said, catching his reflection in the tri-fold mirror. He looked sharp, sharper than he ever had in his life. But he also looked tired. The bags under his eyes were darker, hidden only by the dim lighting of the shop. "Do it, Enzo. Make it fit." "Very well," the tailor murmured, pinning the fabric. "This is going to cost an extra $2,000 for the rush order," the tailor added apologetically, "since the gala is tomorrow." Liam hesitated. $2,000. 2 weeks ago, that was his monthly rent. He felt a phantom vibration in his pocket, his phone linked to his bank account. He knew the balance was dangerously low. He had liquidated his emergency savings to pay the deposit on the new Midtown suite, and the firm hadn't processed his expense reimbursements yet. "Put it on the card," Liam said, his voice a little too loud. "Liam," Sophia said, finally looking up. Her eyes narrowed. "Is there a problem?" "No." Liam straightened his back. "No problem. Just, I prefer efficiency." He handed his credit card to the tailor. He held his breath as the machine beeped. Once. Twice. Declined. The word flashed on the small screen in red letters. The tailor looked at it. Then at Liam, his expression carefully neutral. "Perhaps the chip is dirty. Let me try again." Declined. The silence in the room was suffocating. Liam felt a prickle of sweat on his neck, despite the air conditioning. "It's the bank," Liam laughed nervously. "I told you, they put a security hold on it because of the big charges lately. They think my identity has been stolen because I'm spending so much." Sophia stood up, sighing. She walked over, pulled a sleek black card from her purse, her father's supplementary card, and slapped it on the counter. "Use this. We don't have time for your bank's incompetence, Liam. We have a dinner reservation in 20 minutes. She turned to Liam, her voice dropping to a whisper that cut deeper than a shout. "Fix it. By tomorrow. You are about to be a partner at Sterling Voss. Partners don't get their cards declined." Liam nodded, feeling a knot of humiliation tighten in his stomach. "It's handled. I promise." Later that night, Liam found himself standing outside his old apartment building in Queens. He told Sophia he had a late meeting, but the truth was he needed his lucky cufflinks. They were cheap, silver-plated things Chloe had bought him for his first interview at the firm, engraved with his initials. He told himself he only wanted them because they worked. They were a talisman. He didn't want to admit that he felt unmoored without them. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was dark. The air was stale. It didn't smell like pot roast or vanilla anymore. It smelled like dust. He flipped the light switch. The living room was exactly as he had left it, yet entirely different. The throw pillows were stacked neatly. The books were aligned on the shelves. It looked like a staged home, devoid of life. He walked to the bedroom. The closet door was open. Chloe's side was empty. It was jarring. He had expected... what? To find her crying? To find the place a mess? Instead, it was surgically clean. It was as if she had never existed. He opened the top drawer of the dresser to find the cufflinks. They were there, sitting in their small velvet box. Next to them was a large manila envelope. "Liam Harper," it said, on the front in Chloe's neat cursive. He tore it open. The divorce papers. He scanned them quickly. She wasn't asking for alimony. She wasn't asking for a share of his pension. She wasn't even asking for the furniture. Section 4. Assets. Petitioner, Chloe Harper, waives all rights to respondents, Liam Harper. Future earnings, equity, and property. Liam let out a laugh, the sound bouncing off the empty walls. "See?" he whispered to himself. "I told you. She knows she can't win. She's walking away with nothing." He felt a surge of victory. He grabbed the cufflinks and the papers. He would sign them tonight and have them messaged to her lawyer in the morning. He was free. He was going to the gala as a single man, a future millionaire, unburdened by a woman who thought small. As he turned to leave, his foot kicked something under the bed. He knelt down and pulled it out. It was a photo album, one of those cheap, plastic-bound ones Chloe used to make. He opened it to the last filled page. It was a picture of them from 6 months ago, sitting on a park bench, eating ice cream. Liam was looking at his phone. Chloe was looking at Liam. The look on her face in the photo stopped him cold. It wasn't adoration, it wasn't neediness. It was a look of profound, aching sadness, as if she was already saying goodbye. Whatever. Liam slammed the book shut and tossed it back under the bed. "You missed out, Chloe." He walked out of the apartment, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. He didn't lock it. He wouldn't be coming back. While Liam was fighting ghosts in Queens, Chloe van der Hoven was dismantling giants in Manhattan. She sat at the head of a mahogany table in the boardroom of VDH Enterprises. The room was soundproof, located on the 80th floor, high above the clouds. 12 people sat around the table, men and women twice her age, seasoned executives who ran shipping lines, tech firms, and real estate conglomerates. They were all looking at her. Chloe wore no makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. She wore a tailored white suit that cost more than Liam's annual salary. "The Sterling Voss acquisition," she said, her voice low but carrying effortlessly across the room. "Where do we stand?" A man with grey hair and thick glasses, the CEO of her acquisition arm, cleared his throat. "We have acquired 51% of the voting shares through shell companies, Ms. van der Hoven. As of this morning, we effectively own the firm. However, the board of Sterling Voss doesn't know it yet. They believe the shares are held by a diversified group of foreign investors." "Good," Chloe said. She tapped a pen against the table. "And the partnership review? The list of candidates for the new equity partners?" "Here, madam." The CEO slid a tablet across the table. Chloe scrolled down the list. 1. Sarah Jenkins. 2. Michael Ross. 3. Liam Harper. She stopped at Liam's name. "The current board is very high on Mr. Harper," the CEO noted. "His numbers for the last quarter are impressive. He brought in the Anderson account." "He brought in the Anderson account," Chloe corrected, "because I called George Anderson and told him to give the boy a chance." The room went silent. The executives exchanged glances. They knew better than to ask why the heiress had been secretly propping up a junior associate for years. "Mr. Harper is volatile," Chloe said, her eyes cold. "He lacks risk assessment skills. He mistakes luck for talent. And recently, his judgment has been compromised by personal entanglements that pose a liability to the firm's reputation." She looked up at the CEO. "Keep his name on the list for now. I want him at the gala. I want him to believe the position is his." "And then?" "And then," Chloe closed the tablet, "I want to introduce the new majority shareholder policy on ethics and character." "Ms. van der Hoven," a woman from legal spoke up, "if we expose him publicly, it could rattle investor confidence. He is the face of the new division." "He is a face we painted," Chloe said. "We can paint another." She stood up. The meeting was over. The executives scrambled to stand as well. "Andrew," she called out as she walked toward the door. Her loyal butler and legal counsel appeared at her side. "Madam? Is the dress ready?" "It arrived from Paris this morning. Custom Dior. Vintage lace from your grandmother's wedding gown was integrated, as requested." Chloe nodded. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the city. Somewhere down there, Liam was probably celebrating, thinking he had won the lottery. "He called me a gold digger, Andrew," she said, the hurt finally bleeding into her voice, just for a second. "He looked me in the eye and told me I was a parasite." "He saw a mirror, madam," Andrew said gently, "and he mistook it for a window." Chloe took a deep breath, and the steel returned to her spine. "Tomorrow night I'm going to break the mirror." The day of the chairman's gala arrived with a grey, drizzle-soaked morning, but by 5 p.m. the skies had cleared, leaving the air crisp and electric. In the Midtown Executive Suite, the atmosphere was frantic. "No, no, no!" Sophia screamed, throwing a pair of earrings across the room. "These are gold! I said platinum. The dress is silver, Liam. Do you want me to look like a clown?" Liam was in the bathroom, trying to shave without cutting himself. His hands were shaking. He hadn't slept. He had spent the night staring at the ceiling, calculating numbers. If the partnership went through, when it went through, he would get a signing bonus of $500,000. That would cover the credit card debt, the new lease, and the ring Sophia had been hinting at. "I'll call the stylist," Liam yelled back, wiping foam from his face. "We'll get the platinum ones sent up." "It's too late." Sophia stormed into the bathroom. She looked breathtaking in a silver sequined gown that hugged every curve, but her face was twisted in a snarl. "You should have checked this yesterday. This is what I'm talking about, Liam. Details. You missed the details?" "I've had a lot on my mind," Liam snapped. "Well, clear it," Sophia ordered. "Tonight is the biggest night of your life. Don't embarrass me." She turned and left. Liam stared at himself in the mirror. He looked at the lucky cufflinks on the counter. He picked them up and fastened them to his wrists. The cheap metal felt cool against his skin. I am the prize, he whispered, the affirmation his life coach had taught him. I am the prize. But as he looked in the mirror, the eyes staring back looked terrified. Across town, in the penthouse, the preparation was a ceremony. There was no screaming, no rushing, only the soft rustle of silk and the clinking of diamonds. Chloe stood on a podium in the center of her dressing room. 3 attendants were making final adjustments to her gown. It was a masterpiece of midnight blue velvet, off the shoulder, with a train that flowed like dark water. It was elegant, regal, and imposing. The necklace, madam? Andrew presented a black velvet case. Chloe opened it. Inside lay the Van der Hoven star, a 50-carat sapphire surrounded by diamonds. It had belonged to her great-grandmother. It was worth more than the entire building Liam lived in. Chloe lifted the heavy piece and let Andrew clasp it around her neck. The cold weight of it settled on her collarbone. It felt like armor. "Makeup?" the stylist asked. "Sharp," Chloe said. "I don't want to look soft. I want to look inevitable." When she turned to the mirror, Chloe Harper was gone. The woman staring back was Chloe Van der Hoven. She was terrifyingly beautiful. Her eyes, usually so warm and inviting, were now highlighted with smoky quartz and charcoal, making them piercing. Her lips were a deep, blood-red crimson. "The car is waiting," Andrew said, "and the security team has secured the perimeter at the venue. The press knows that the ghost is revealing themselves tonight. The anticipation is feverish." "Let's go," Chloe said. She picked up a small crystal clutch. Inside was her phone, a lipstick, and the signed divorce papers Liam had sent over that morning. The chairman's gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The steps were covered in a crimson carpet, flanked by velvet ropes and hundreds of screaming photographers. A black limousine pulled up. The door opened and Liam stepped out. He extended a hand to Sophia. She emerged, beaming, waving at the cameras. Liam puffed out his chest. This was it. The flashes blinded him. "Over here, Mr. Harper!" a photographer yelled. Liam smiled, turning to the left. "Miss Rostova, who are you wearing?" "Versace," Sophia chirped, squeezing Liam's arm. "Isn't he handsome?" They walked up the stairs, bathing in the adoration. Liam felt the anxiety melt away. He belonged here. He was a king. "See," he whispered to Sophia. "We own this town." But just as they reached the top of the stairs, a hush fell over the crowd below. It started as a ripple of silence and grew into a wave. The screaming photographers stopped clicking. They lowered their cameras, looking toward the street. A convoy of 3 black SUVs had pulled up, flanking a vintage Rolls-Royce Phantom. "Who is that?" Sophia frowned, looking back. "The mayor?" "No," Liam said, squinting. "The mayor is already inside." The driver of the Rolls-Royce opened the back door. Andrew stepped out first, straightening his tie. He reached a hand inside. A leg emerged. Then the midnight blue velvet. Chloe stepped out onto the pavement. She stood there for a moment, the wind catching the train of her dress. She looked up at the massive museum, her expression unreadable. Then the chaos exploded. "It's her!" someone screamed. "Miss Van der Hoven! The heiress!" The flashes erupted like a strobe light storm, 10 times more intense than what Liam had experienced. The crowd surged forward against the barricades. Reporters were shouting questions, climbing over each other to get a shot. Liam froze at the top of the stairs. He couldn't see the woman's face clearly from this distance. She was just a silhouette of blue and diamonds amidst the blinding lights. "Van der Hoven?" Liam muttered. "I thought the family died out." "Apparently not," Sophia said, her voice dripping with jealousy. "Look at those diamonds. They must be fake. No one wears that much carrot weight to a gala. "Let's go inside," Liam said, suddenly feeling small again. It's probably just some European royalty. He turned away, pulling Sophia into the grand hall. But as the heavy doors closed behind him, muting the roar of the crowd, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen that posture before. The way she held her head, the way she walked. It reminded him of the way Chloe used to walk out of the library when she knew she had aced an exam. "Don't be stupid," he told himself. "Chloe is in Queens, eating microwave popcorn." He checked his coat pocket for the invite. Table 1, the VIP table. "Come on," he said to Sophia. "Let's go find our throne." They walked into the ballroom under the massive vaulted ceilings. It was a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played in the corner. Liam navigated through the crowd, nodding to colleagues who looked at him with a mix of envy and curiosity. "Table 1, Liam said to the usher. "Right this way, sir, right in front of the stage." They reached the round table. It was set for 10 people. There were gold name cards at each setting. Liam found his name. Liam Harper. Next to him, Sophia Rostova. "Perfect," Sophia purred, sitting down. But then Liam looked at the other names on the table. James Sterling, CEO, Robert Voss, Chairman, Senator Higgins, and the seat directly across from him, the head of the table. The card didn't have a name, it just had a symbol, a gold crest embossed into the paper, a lion holding a key. Liam frowned. He stared at the crest. It looked vaguely familiar. He had seen it on letterheads in the archives. Or maybe... He froze. He had seen that crest on a keychain, an old tarnished brass keychain that Chloe kept her apartment keys on. She said it was a trinket from a flea market. "Sophia," Liam said, his voice trembling. "That crest. What about it?" Sophia was busy taking a selfie. "Nothing," Liam swallowed hard. "Just nothing." The lights in the ballroom dimmed. The chatter died down. A spotlight hit the stage. Robert Voss, the chairman of Sterling Voss, walked to the microphone. He looked nervous. He was wiping sweat from his forehead. "Ladies and gentlemen," Voss said, his voice echoing, "tonight is a historic night. For decades, the majority ownership of our firm, and indeed the direction of this market, has been guided by a silent hand. A hand we have respected, but never seen." Liam leaned forward. This was it. The ghost. "Tonight," Voss continued, "that changes. It is my distinct honor, and frankly, my terrifying privilege, to introduce you to the chairwoman of the board, the owner of VDH Enterprises, the majority shareholder of Sterling Voss." The double doors at the side of the stage opened. "Please welcome," Voss's voice wavered, "Ms. Chloe van der Hoven." Liam's glass of champagne slipped from his fingers. It hit the table. It didn't break, but the golden liquid spilled everywhere, soaking the white tablecloth. Liam didn't notice. He couldn't breathe. He watched as the woman in the midnight blue dress walked onto the stage. The light caught her face. It was Chloe. His Chloe. The woman who clipped coupons. The woman who wore oversized t-shirts to bed. The woman he had called a gold digger. She stood at the microphone, looking out over the sea of faces. Her eyes scanned the room, cold and precise. Then, they stopped. She was looking directly at table 1, directly at him. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled. It was a smile that promised the end of the world. The applause that followed Robert Voss's introduction was thunderous, a polite roar of the city's elite acknowledging a new power. But to Liam Harper, it sounded like the rushing of blood in his own ears. The room tilted. The crystal chandeliers seemed to sway. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. "It's not her," His mind screamed, a desperate, clawing denial. It's a cousin, a twin, a hallucination brought on by stress and whiskey. But as the woman at the microphone adjusted the stand, the light hit her left hand. There was no ring on her finger anymore, but there was a tiny, faint scar on her thumb. A burn mark from 3 years ago, when she had insisted on learning to make crème brûlée for his birthday, because he said he liked it. It was the scar he had kissed 1,000 times. "Thank you, Mr. Voss," Chloe said. Her voice was amplified, booming through the speakers, yet it retained that terrifying calmness. It wasn't the soft, hesitant voice that used to ask him if he wanted tea. It was a voice of command. "And thank you all for welcoming me. For years I have preferred the shadows. I believed that true value speaks for itself, that it does not need to shout to be heard." She paused, her eyes sweeping the room, lingering for a fraction of a second on table 1. "But recently," Chloe continued, her tone sharpening, "I was reminded that silence can be mistaken for weakness, and that modesty can be mistaken for poverty." A ripple of laughter went through the crowd, assuming she was making a witty corporate metaphor. Liam didn't laugh. He felt like he was suffocating. "We live in a world obsessed with optics," Chloe said, leaning into the mic. "We chase the loudest opportunities. We value the shiny exterior over the structural integrity. We look at a book with a worn cover and assume the story isn't worth reading." Sophia, sitting next to Liam, had gone rigid. She wasn't looking at the stage anymore. She was looking at Liam. Her eyes were wide, darting between him and the woman on stage. "Liam!" she hissed, her voice trembling. "Why does the billionaire chairwoman of VDH Enterprises look exactly like the wife you just divorced?" Liam couldn't speak. His throat was filled with sand. "Tonight," Chloe went on, "I am stepping out of the shadows to correct some accounting errors. Sterling Voss has always been a jewel in my family's portfolio. But a jewel must be polished. It must be protected from those who would chip away at it for their own gain." She smiled, a cold, dazzling expression. "We are entering a new era. An era of transparency. An era where you cannot hide who you are behind a fancy suit or a title. Because at the end of the day, the ledger always balances, and everyone pays what they owe." The crowd erupted into applause again as Chloe stepped back from the podium. The orchestra swelled. "Oh my God," Sophia whispered, pulling her hand away from Liam's arm as if he were burning hot. "It is her! You idiot! You absolute, catastrophic idiot!" "Shut up," Liam croaked. "I didn't know. How could I know? She drove a Honda, Sophia. She used coupons." "She owns the bank that financed your Honda," Sophia hissed back, her face draining of color. "Do you realize who she is? VDH Enterprises owns the building we're sitting in. They own the media conglomerate covering this event. They probably own the oxygen you're breathing right now." Liam watched, paralyzed, as Chloe descended the stairs from the stage. Robert Voss and James Sterling, the two most powerful men Liam knew, men he had spent 5 years trying to impress, rushed to the bottom of the stairs to offer her their hands. She bypassed them both. She walked straight toward table 1. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea. Every eye in the room followed her movement. The rustle of her velvet dress was the only sound Liam could hear over the pounding of his heart. She reached the table. The senator stood up immediately. Robert Voss scrambled to pull out the chair at the head of the table, the chair directly across from Liam. "Ms. van der Hoeven," Voss stammered. "Please, sit. We are honored." "Thank you, Robert," Chloe said. She sat down, her movements graceful and fluid. She placed her crystal clutch on the table. She looked at the senator and nodded. She looked at the CEO and smiled politely. Then she turned her gaze to Liam. Up close, the transformation was even more jarring. Her skin was luminous, her makeup flawless. But it was the eyes, those familiar hazel eyes, that devastated him. There was no love in them. There was no anger. There was only the clinical detachment of an exterminator looking at a termite. "Good evening," Chloe said to the table. "Good evening, Miss van der Hoven," the table chorused in unison. Liam sat there, frozen. He knew he should speak. He knew he should run. But he couldn't do either. "And you must be Sophia," Chloe said, turning her gaze to the woman beside him. Sophia, usually the shark in the room, looked like a deer in headlights. She swallowed hard. Miss van der Hoven, it's an honor. I work in legal." "I know," Chloe said softly. "I've read your file. You're very ambitious, Sophia. You have a knack for spotting rising stocks." She glanced at Liam. "Though, perhaps your due diligence needs some work." Sophia's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Chloe picked up her napkin and placed it on her lap. "Shall we eat?" "I believe the first course is a pot roast reduction. A little elevated, of course. But I've always had a soft spot for comfort food." The dinner was an exercise in torture. Liam couldn't feel his legs. The champagne he had spilled earlier was seeping into his pants, cold and sticky, but he didn't dare move. The conversation at the table was dominated by Robert Voss and James Sterling, trying to curry favor with Chloe. They asked about her European holdings, her views on the Asian markets, her philanthropy. Chloe answered effortlessly, displaying a depth of financial knowledge that made Liam's head spin. This was the woman he had lectured about inflation? This was the woman he had explained compound interest to as if she were a child? "So, Miss van der Hoven," the senator asked between bites of lobster, "what brings you to New York now? You've been a silent partner for so long." "Housekeeping, Senator," Chloe said, taking a sip of water. "I found that I had allowed some of my properties to become infested. I trusted the wrong people to manage my assets." She looked directly at Liam. He flinched. "Is that so?" the senator asked, oblivious to the tension. "Yes," Chloe continued. "I had a particularly troublesome investment. I poured resources into it. I nurtured it. I gave it shelter and stability. I believed that with enough support, it would grow into something magnificent." "And?" the senator asked. "And it turned out to be a Ponzi scheme," Chloe said flatly. "It took everything I gave it, demanded more, and yielded zero return." Liam felt the blood rush to his face. "Chloe," he whispered. It was an involuntary sound, a plea. The table went silent. Robert Voss looked at Liam with horror. "You didn't address the chairwoman by her first name." Chloe turned her head slowly. "I beg your pardon, Mr. Harper. Did you have something to add?" Liam's voice cracked. He looked around the table. Everyone was staring at him. Can we talk? In private?" "I don't think that's necessary," Chloe said, her voice breezy. "Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of the board. After all, you're practically family, aren't you? You've worked for my company for 5 years." "Chloe, please," Liam said, his voice gaining a desperate edge. "I didn't know. If you had known what?" Chloe interrupted, her voice dropping an octave, becoming steel hard. "If you had known I was a billionaire, you wouldn't have left? You wouldn't have called me a leech?" The senator dropped his fork. Sophia covered her face with her hand. "I didn't mean it," Liam stammered. "I was stressed. The partnership, I was doing it for us." "The partnership," Chloe repeated, tasting the word. She turned to James Sterling, the CEO. James, Mr. Harper seems very concerned about his partnership status. Why don't we clarify that for him?" Sterling looked nervous. He wiped his mouth with a napkin. "Well, madam, as you know, the partnership committee recommended Mr. Harper based on the Anderson deal and his projected earnings." "Ah, yes." "The Anderson deal," Chloe said. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a sleek black phone. She tapped the screen a few times and placed it on the table. "Let's call George Anderson, shall we?" She hit speaker. The phone rang once, twice. "Chloe!" George Anderson's booming voice filled the silence of table 1. "Darling, did you get the flowers? I sent them to the penthouse." "I did, George, thank you," Chloe said, her eyes never leaving Liam's face. "I'm sitting here with a young associate of mine, Liam Harper. He seems to think he closed your account through his sheer charisma." George laughed, a deep, belly laugh. "Harper, the kid in the cheap suit. Chloe, come on. I signed with Sterling Voss because you asked me to as a personal favor. I thought he was your charity project, or was it your gardener?" Liam felt as if he had been punched in the gut. The air left his lungs. "Thank you, George," Chloe said. "That's all I needed." She hung up. She looked at Liam. "Charity project," she repeated softly. "That's what the market thinks of you, Liam. You didn't earn the Anderson deal. You didn't earn the Oakhaven meeting. You didn't even earn your job." "What?" Liam whispered. 5 years ago, Chloe said, leaning forward. "Your resume was in the trash. You didn't have the grades for Sterling Voss. You didn't have the pedigree. I pulled it out. I called the hiring manager and told him to give you an interview. I paid for your GMAT prep courses, anonymously. I paid for your suits. I quietly covered the losses on your first 3 trades so you wouldn't get fired." Tears of humiliation stung Liam's eyes. "No, that's not true. I'm good at this. I'm a shark." "You're a goldfish in a tank I bought," Chloe said brutally, "and I just stopped feeding you." She turned back to Sterling. "James, regarding the partnership." "Yes, madam." "It's denied," Chloe said. "Furthermore, I want a full audit of Mr. Harper's expense accounts. I believe there was an attempt to charge a $2,000 suit tailoring to the corporate card yesterday. That is a violation of company policy for non-partners." "It will be handled immediately," Sterling said, pulling out a notepad. "And," Chloe added, "Mr. Harper is currently in possession of sensitive client data on his personal devices. Security should escort him out and scrub his phone." "Now?" Sterling asked. "Now," Chloe said. 2 large men in black suits, who had been standing by the wall, stepped forward. They didn't look like waiters. They looked like specialized security. Liam stood up, his legs shaking. "You can't do this. I'm your husband." "Ex-husband," Chloe corrected, reaching into her clutch again. She pulled out the manila envelope he had signed the night before. She slid it across the table. "You signed the papers, Liam. You wanted a clean break. You wanted to protect your assets from the gold digger." She stood up, towering over him in her heels. The entire ballroom had gone quiet, sensing the drama at the head table. "You called me a gold digger," Chloe said, her voice projecting to the nearby tables. "You said I brought nothing to the table. But Liam, look around you." She gestured to the ballroom, the chandeliers, the heavy velvet drapes, the very spoon he had been eating with. "I bought the table," she whispered. "I bought the room. I bought the building. And for 5 years, I bought you a life you couldn't afford." She picked up her champagne glass. "You wanted to find someone on your level, Liam? Go find her. Because you are certainly not on mine." She gestured to the security guards. "Get him out of my sight." One of the guards grabbed Liam's arm. It wasn't gentle. "Sir, this way," the guard grunted. Liam looked at Sophia, pleading for help. Sophia looked down at her plate, terrified to even make eye contact with him, lest Chloe decide to audit her next. "Sophia?" Liam croaked. "I don't know him," Sophia muttered to the tablecloth. "We just work together." Liam was dragged away from the VIP table. As he was marched through the ballroom, past the colleagues he had bragged to, past the rivals he had sneered at, he felt the crushing weight of reality. He wasn't the prize. He wasn't the shark. He was just a man who had held a winning lottery ticket in his hand for 5 years and thrown it away because he thought the paper was too crumpled. At the head table, Chloe sat back down. She took a sip of champagne. Her hand wasn't shaking. "Now," she said to the terrified men around her, "let's discuss the quarterly projections." 6 months later, the rain in New York felt colder than Liam remembered. He pulled the collar of his jacket up, a cheap, off-the-rack windbreaker he'd bought at a thrift store. His bespoke suits were long gone, sold to pay rent on the studio apartment he now rented in Jersey City. Liam stood on the sidewalk across from the Sterling Voss Tower. He wasn't allowed inside anymore. He wasn't even allowed in the lobby. The security guard, a man he used to ignore every morning, had politely but firmly escorted him off the premises when he tried to deliver his resume 2 months ago. No one in the city would hire him. The audit Chloe had ordered had been thorough. It revealed nothing illegal, but it painted a picture of incompetence and arrogance that made him radioactive. Character concerns, the rejection emails said. He watched the revolving doors spin. A group of young associates walked out, laughing, checking their phones. They looked like he used to look, hungry, confident, oblivious. Then a black car pulled up to the curb. The doors didn't open immediately. A driver got out and held an umbrella. Chloe stepped out. She looked different. She wasn't wearing the severe business suits anymore. She wore a soft, cream-colored coat and jeans. She looked happy, lighter. A man stepped out from the other side of the car. He wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't a CEO. He was wearing a flannel shirt and holding a camera bag. He was smiling at something Chloe said. He reached out and took her hand, interlacing their fingers. It was simple. It was domestic. It was real. Liam watched them. He remembered the pot roasts. He remembered the way she used to massage his shoulders after a long day. He remembered the safety she had given him, the bedrock he had mistaken for a cage. He had wanted a life of high stakes and big wins. He got it. He gambled everything he had, and he lost. Chloe looked up, scanning the street before entering the building. For a second, her eyes seemed to land on the figure across the street, the man in the cheap jacket standing in the rain. She didn't wave. She didn't glare. She just looked through him, as if he were part of the scenery, a background character in a story that wasn't about him anymore. She turned back to the man with the camera, laughed at something he said, and walked through the revolving doors. Liam stood there for a long time. Then he turned around and walked toward the subway. He had a shift at the coffee shop starting in an hour. It wasn't finance, it wasn't glamorous, but for the first time in his life, it was honest work. He touched his wrist. The lucky cufflinks were gone. He had pawned them last week to pay the electric bill. He didn't need luck anymore. He needed to learn how to be a person. So, what is the real cost of ambition? Liam Harper thought the price of success was shedding the people who loved him when he had nothing. He thought value was measured in stock options and designer labels. But he learned the hard way that the most valuable asset in the world isn't money. It's loyalty. Chloe gave him everything, her patience, her support, and her silence, which protected his ego. When he broke that trust, He didn't just lose a wife, he lost his safety net. In the end, Liam got exactly what he asked for, a life where he was judged solely on his own merits, and without Chloe's hidden hand propping him up, he crumbled. It's a harsh lesson, but a necessary one. Be careful who you step on while you're climbing the ladder. They might be the only ones holding it steady. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. What would you have done if you were Chloe? Would you have exposed him sooner? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.